I'd like to talk about a very well-known Greek myth, Perseus and Medusa, and the hidden instructions within it for how to triumph in what seems like an unwinnable battle. This is for anyone looking around themselves right now and feeling hopeless about our species or our planet, or feeling like there's just no way out of the problems that you, your family, your community, or your country are faced with. It might look like there's nothing that you can do, but there is. You can feel how you feel about it. And it seems like, well, what's that going to do? Everything.
Welcome to Joy Dialogues. This is a podcast where we talk about love and joy and bringing more of that into our lives. And today we have Eurydice. And Eurydice and I have been friends for a very long time. And we worked together at a film company for a while. And over the years, I've learned so much from you, and like you have always been studying various things like Qigong and different healing arts, and I've seen you heal your sister's cat. You've helped me with personal issues I've had, and we've played we've played games like intuition games, and I've really noticed while we've done that how amazing you are, and you're a very inspiring person. And I've been having, definitely, as we've come into this time, some real ups and downs in my emotions, and I feel like you have been very important to me to help me ground myself and keep perspective. And you brought up recently that you would like to share a myth today, and we're going to talk about that myth, the myth of Perseus and Medusa. But if you could just introduce yourself really briefly and some of the background that you'd like to share with people who are listening.
Oh, well, I am, as you said, I've been, super fascinated by the intuitive, the spiritual, the esoteric my whole life, as long as I can remember. I've studied many different spiritual traditions and different techniques, but in my day-to-day life, I'm a financial administrator. So this is sort of like the other side of me that I don't necessarily get to express at work, but it definitely is behind my whole life. So this is the first time I'm doing anything like this, like talking about it, like in the public sense. So it's really exciting, and I really appreciate you giving me the chance. And also, I am so enjoying seeing what you've been putting up on your YouTube channel on Joy Dialogues. So
Thank you. So yeah, how would we like to start? I know you had a very kind of specific tale you wanted to tell. Would you like to just go ahead and dive into that?
sure,
Okay.
sure. I'd like to talk about a very well-known Greek myth that you mentioned already, Perseus and Medusa, and what I see as the hidden instructions within it for how to triumph in what seems like an unwinnable battle. So this is for anyone looking around themselves right now and feeling hopeless about our species or our planet, or feeling like there's just no way out of the problems that you, your family, your community, or your country are faced with. The myth I want to talk about it's very, very old. It's very well known. And even if it doesn't ring a bell right away, Perseus and Medusa, I guarantee you've heard of at least one of the characters. So Perseus was a son of Zeus, the king of the gods, and he went on a traditional hero's journey to save his mother from a predatory ruler. King Polydectes was trying to force Perseus's mother, Danae, to marry him, but her son was in the way. To get rid of him, the king demanded that Perseus present him with the head of the monster, Medusa. Medusa was a beautiful woman who was turned into a monster with snakes for hair, and she lived with her two Gorgon sisters on an island at the ends of the earth. Anyone who looked at her face would turn to stone. So, in demanding Perseus bring back Medusa's head, the king was sending him on a fool's errand from which no one would be expected to return. But Perseus was both brave and clever, and he had help from many gods and goddesses who gave him gifts necessary to complete his quest. Among those was a gift from Athena, the goddess of wisdom, a shield so highly polished that it acted as a mirror. Perseus arrived at the island and approached the sleeping Gorgons. He couldn't look at Medusa directly or he'd turn to stone. Watching her only as a reflection in his mirror, he snuck up close enough to draw his sword and sever her head. Medusa is then said to have birthed two immortal beings from her neck, a golden giant and a winged horse, Pegasus. So I'm sure you've heard of Pegasus. This is where Pegasus comes from. Perseus picked up Medusa's head, placing it in a satchel so no one would be accidentally petrified at the sight of it, and returned to his mother, in many versions of the myth riding on Pegasus, making several stops along the way to carry out other impossible feats, using Medusa's head as a weapon to turn his enemies to stone. So finally, Perseus arrived home and presented himself to the king, who was probably very surprised to see him. His mother was nowhere to be seen. After much negotiating with the king, he finally learned where the king had imprisoned his mother, at which point he showed him and his warriors Medusa's head, turned them all to stone, and then rescued Danae. So that's the myth. And this myth has, in its long history, it has been interpreted sometimes as the triumph of male courage and reason over irrational feminine rage. Depicted is the monster Medusa with her snakes for hair. It is important to note that in the earliest versions of this myth, Medusa was born a monster, but in a later and more well-known retelling from the 1st century BC, not BC, CE, by the Roman poet historian Ovid, she is originally a beautiful woman and a priestess of Athena who is pursued by the sea god Poseidon. Poseidon raped her in Athena's temple, and Athena punished Medusa for being raped by turning her into a snake-haired Gorgon who turns anyone who looks at her to stone. So later commentators have reinterpreted Medusa as a victim of monumental injustice rather than a monster. They see her as the victim in the story rather than the villain. However, I think that this detail added by Ovid is another important clue to the hidden meaning of this myth, and my interpretation is different from either of these. And this is something I've been fascinated with Greek myths since I was like in 5th grade. And I had read this many times, this myth many times. I was familiar with it, but I happened to read it later and read one of these interpretations, and it just sort of like just popped into my head, like, no, that's not what it means. I don't know where that came from. But what came to mind in that moment was that I felt like it was an allegory where Perseus is showing us how to triumph against impossible odds, but the first battle he has to win is against a monster that's actually inside his own self. So Medusa is, in my opinion, the best illustration of Eckhart Tolle's pain body that has ever been thought of.
Wow,
So
I love that.
if you've ever, yeah, you're thinking of the pain, A New Earth. If you've read Tolle's book, A New Earth, you are familiar with this concept. So the pain body is a part of ourselves that feels nothing but pain. It expects nothing but pain. It seeks out more pain. It is a self-destructive, saboteur of our happiness and our health. But how is it created? When something happens that is too much, too fast, or too soon, which is trauma. So it's a part of ourselves, or that most likely through no fault of our own has been traumatized and then unfairly punished by the gods, just like Medusa. So how do you slay a pain body? So Eckhart Tolle says it cannot withstand the power of your presence, and it can't. But what if it is so monstrous that you can't even look at it? What if it's so hidden you can't even see that it's there? Like, has this ever happened to you? Like, have you ever found that there was a part of you that was just, dedicated to causing more pain that seemed to come out of nowhere, and then you realize it's been hurting you for years and you never realized until that moment? Um, or maybe you've tried to address some trigger of a pain body projection, and every time you try, you find yourself fleeing, either mentally or even physically, before you even know what happened. No, I definitely had that experience. So that's the problem with Medusa. You can't look at her or you'll turn to stone. But I think she keeps wreaking havoc in hopes that one day a hero will finally find a way to see her and set her free. Which is, after all, I think what a pain body is really trying to do. So if you're going to slay an inner monster that you can't look at, how do you get up close enough to strike? So Perseus, who I think as the hero of the story is meant to represent our divine self, he used a mirror so he didn't have to look directly at the monster. And we can do that too. But the mirror is, it's everywhere. Wherever you go, there you are. So, who we are and what we're attracting is reflected everywhere around us if we realize it, if we're aware of it. So the thing about pain bodies is they are always attracting pain to themselves, whether we can see them or not, which is why it's so important to deal with pain bodies first before we go forth into other battles. When we hide, what we hide from ourselves is not hidden from anyone or anything else in the universe. Everything else is responding to it. We're the only ones who don't know. So the pain body has the radio set on the doom and gloom station, and we are left wondering who keeps playing songs we don't like.
Can you describe the pain body a little more for people who have maybe not read Eckhart Tolle or aren't familiar with that term?
It's like a function of the egoic self, the little I.
It's like a pattern you get stuck in that's unhelpful, kind of, maybe, and it works in tandem with your inner critic. I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one thing about it is when it starts to replay its old recording, you sort of become, you're not really conscious the way you are normally. You're just acting out like, I don't know, like I want to say a marionette, maybe, but and you just keep replaying it over and over again without really realizing what you're doing, and then you wonder afterwards, like, why did I do that again? Why do I always do this thing that I hate? Why can't I stop doing that? And so then Eckhart Tolle is saying that you have to find a way to remain present, remain as the observer of this part of yourself, and not identify with it, so that you can just watch it and observe what it's doing and become conscious of the pattern, and that dissipates the energy of it. That's the best way I can think of to describe it quickly.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
Totally wrote a
perfect.
great. It's tough because he had to write 2 whole books, not just one, to explain it. But he did such a good job.
I will link
Um,
those books into the description of YouTube.
yeah, everyone should check him out.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, like how he said that he wrote 2 different books about the same subject because they each resonate with a certain set of people. I don't know if that happened to you, but I read A New Earth first, and it caused me to have a whole like spiritual experience.
Oh,
But
and
then I read The Power of Now
yeah,
later, and I was like, meh.
we love you,
So,
Eckhart Tolle.
yay!
Yay.
So here we're talking about pain bodies attracting pain to themselves and how the universe is responding to that. So that's how this works like a mirror. You can use this mirror, which is everything around you, to see where the pain body is and that it's there. So, what is happening in your life that is unwanted, and especially unwanted and unexpected, like things that seem to just come out of the blue, you're like, why did this, like, this isn't the normal way things go. Where did this come from? You know? Uh, or where you have a situation where nothing you do seems to make a difference, or no solution is presenting itself. So I would say in any case like that, there's a pain body, or we can call it Medusa, and there's somewhere that you aren't able to look at. It's hidden from you. You can use this information, though, to let yourself be present to how you feel about this unwanted messenger, like whatever's happening to you that is manifesting a problem. So, because it's showing you exactly where to go. So you just need to keep your courage and your wits about you, because you are slaying a gorgon after all. It's terrifying. I'm not just trying to sugarcoat it. This takes a lot of courage to do. And that actually leads me to another point that I wanted to make, because I'm talking about slaying a gorgon. It seems kind of like violent to talk about slaying a part of yourself. So what happens to the pain body when we vanquish it? Does it die? Does Medusa die in the myth? The myth usually describes her as killed and her head is cut off, but then she gives birth from her neck. That's not usually how births happen, or deaths for that matter. And I think that Pegasus springing forth from her neck represents the energy that has been freed, that was formerly locked up within her monstrous form. So if you have ever vanquished a part of your pain body, you have experienced the wonderful gifts that pour forth after, which are the things you never knew you had that were locked up in there. Pegasus, which I understand means to spring forth in Greek, is another evocative metaphor, this time for what happens when a pain body is slain or freed, depending how you want to talk about it. It's a magical beast that springs forth from within it, on whose back you can go anywhere. So Perseus climbs on Pegasus' back with Medusa's head in tow, and then the rest is easy. He's an unstoppable force in this myth. He rescues the maiden Andromeda from being sacrificed to a sea monster by showing it Medusa's head and turning the monster to stone, saves her father's kingdom, marries Andromeda, returns home with his new wife to wipe out King Polydectes and his court, and saves his mother. What I hope that people can take away from this is that no matter how impossible the odds may seem, if we understand how, we can win. If you are facing a seemingly impossible problem, at home or in your community or on your planet, understand that it is a mirror reflecting back what is within us. It's showing us where to go. We have to make use of our power where it will do the most good, and that has to be done internally first. Otherwise, if we try to take action externally first, we will probably get shellacked. But if we do it in the right order, we'll triumph with ease. I know this probably sounds like all very poetic and fantastical, but the thing is, this really does work. And it will work when all else has failed. I use it all the time. Like, I was thinking before this, like, oh, I should share a story about how I used it. Well, the hard part about that is figuring out which one, because I use it all the time. And I can't say that I have no problems. That's not true. Some monsters take longer to sneak up on and slay than others. And so, like, I feel like maybe I'm not one to give advice, but I have used this exact method to win fights against opponents that seemed far more powerful than me. And I think that that's information that I really want to get out there. I want people to know about this. So,
Are you
going
going to
go
share
ahead.
an example?
I am.
Yay, thank you.
So, back, oh my goodness, was it like, how long ago was 2010? 15 years ago? I decided I wanted to move to California. And it was the middle of like a recession, and I didn't know anyone in California, but I just wanted to go, and I felt like if I didn't go now, I'd never go. So I went. I got there and I got a room in like one of those hotels in San Francisco where you can rent by the month.
An SRO?
And
SRO, single room occupancy. Yeah.
which I'm from the country. I never lived in a city, but I knew that I could do it because I knew that, well, things don't happen at random, and I could attract what I needed. Except I went out there and I bit off way too much. I didn't realize how many sleeping gorgons I didn't know about. And when I got there, I was terrified. What did I do? I quit my job, left my home, left my family. Now I'm out here and I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. So, I started trying to find a job, and it wasn't going anywhere. And it was so hard because I was just in so much pain. I had triggered all this trauma. I felt like an idiot. I hated myself, and I couldn't get past it. So it was totally sapping my confidence, and I wasn't able to attract work like that. I remember one interview I tried to go on. I got all dressed up in a suit. I didn't realize that was not necessary in California. I'm from the East Coast. So I got all dressed up and I was walking to this interview. I was walking through Chinatown, which is close to where I lived. And I passed by a stall that had like live or formerly live fish in it. And this fish like flops around and it flicks fish goo on my suit. And I'm like, Well, I'm clearly not attracting what I want right now. Not sure how I'm going to change this. I kept walking. I got to the place where my interview was supposed to be. I did get there on time. There was nobody there.
No.
And when I check everything and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm in the right place and this is the right time. They just didn't show up. These were the types of results I was getting. Somebody totally not tuned to the right station, not tuned to the station where you get a job. I ended up actually I met a person there in San Francisco who did some intuitive counseling, basically. I worked with her. She told me to walk on Ocean Beach and just walk. And I did that. And I walked around the city and I felt how I was feeling. I felt how stupid I felt. I felt how painful it felt. How embarrassed I felt. Um, and I just kept feeling those things. And finally, one day I decided to pick myself back up, and I'd been there, oh gee, 6 months. I'd been there 6 months. I hadn't found a job. And I remember I looked, I think it was on Craigslist, and I saw that there was this film company um, in Berkeley that was looking for somebody that did something like what I did, which is I'm not in film, but they needed some help with financial stuff. And that's how I met Marlo.
Yes.
Because that's the job. I applied to that job after probably 20 in, either, I'm sure it was way more than 20 applications, but various interviews and stuff like that. I said, I'm going in there, I'm getting this job.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And I remember specifically that when I saw it, I picked it and decided that was going to be my job because it sounded fun. It sounded like something I'd never done before. And I got it. And that's how I met you. And I met all these other friends. And I ended up getting an apartment. I made it.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, I remember when you came in, you yeah, you had this presence about you. I also kind of felt like I knew you, and you were I think you were wearing a flower in your hair. There was something
Well,
about your
probably.
fashion that stood out to me, and I was like, I really like this person. So I remember I was one of the advocates for you. I think it was an easy decision. We all were agreeing, but
So I don't know. When I tell this story, I'm not sure how well I'm explaining the process that I went through. And so I'm wondering, like, does this make sense to you? Like, do you see how you could apply this or somebody else could apply this in a
what
difficult
I
situation?
yeah, what I'm hearing is when you walked on the beach, that was when you met your Medusa. You were, I think it wasn't really like it wasn't a violent meeting, and that's not what we're saying here, but it was like you were just facing what was inside of you on that beach. Or how
Yeah.
would you describe it?
Yeah. I think what is just so notable about it is, I mean, I was there for 6 months. I was running out of money and it seemed like, there was no way I was going to find something. And it just, once you are able to feel these things and actually get to the point where you can see the belief behind it, suddenly everything changes. And I have another example of kind of a different situation, but
Can
one
we
where I use the same thing.
can we talk more about this one though, a little bit?
Sure.
I just have questions. Um, what was like? Can you talk more about what you met on the beach? What was it exactly? Um, a fear of change, or what was your Medusa? Do you remember? Just was it imposter syndrome, like not feeling like so many of us have that where we feel like maybe you're in California and you don't quite belong there. So there's a little bit of imposter syndrome. I certainly struggle with that. Have struggled with that a lot. Or what was your Medusa?
Well, imposter syndrome, that sounds familiar, but I think, how would I describe it? It's just, um, I think I felt like mm, I decided to go to California because it was something I wanted to do. It was something that I saw as fun, as something that would make my life more meaningful. Um, and I guess, I have within me this deeply ingrained belief that doing things just because you personally enjoy them is really, really dumb. Like that's a really good way to get into a lot of trouble. Like you should always do the thing that's most practical and the most safe. And if something bad happens to you because you went and tried to do something fun, that's your fault. So I hadn't had very much fun in my life up to that point with a belief like that. And so me going off and doing this was like a direct challenge to that belief. And unfortunately, at the time, first off, I wasn't aware of how deeply entrenched it was. It's like dealing with an iceberg. You can see the iceberg, but there's so much more underneath that you just have no idea about. Um, and and I thought I could just push my way through. Like I'm scared and I'm just gonna no, I'm not gonna be scared. I'm going anywhere way and I'm just gonna strong arm my way through. And I found out that doesn't work. That doesn't work. It is way stronger than I was. I had I had to take a different approach to it. If I were going to do that again, I would be much more mindful of checking the mirrors first and seeing, you know, how am I reacting to this? Instead of just saying, oh, I'm reacting in a way, there's a part of me that's scared. Oh, that part is in my way. I'm just going to ignore it. That doesn't work. That's that part is not going to be ignored. If you try to, it will drag every obstacle it can into your way because it's scared and doesn't understand things from the way that you do now. It's like it's sort of trapped in time. It's not really here in the present.
And
It's like a ghost.
can you drill into like how you slay it or confront it, or like in the story it's he I guess there are some versions where he holds up a mirror. There's a version like that. He holds up a mirror and she freezes herself. And then in the version you told, like he cuts off her head. But what is that for us? Like there must be a number of approaches, but what exactly did you do?
Looking at, I found a way to describe this. I have some notes here and I'm looking. How did I put this? Um, so as every time people have a tendency to look at feelings as just like, I guess, like fluff, like something meaningless that's just in the way of you being able to do what you want, especially when the feelings are like not what you want to feel. Um, but feelings are really telling you about a belief. And they're like a kind of mirror too, showing you that you have some kind of belief that is creating pain. And the thing is that it's happening in your subconscious. So you don't know what it is. All you have are the feelings, or maybe your body tells you. Maybe you get a rash every time you try to work on a particular goal that you have, or your leg hurts, or you end up like hurting yourself. Um, these are also mirrors for some kind of belief that's within you. So using the mirror to try to actually get up to the point where the monster is slain so you can look at it. See, before that, you can't look, can't see it. You've got it hidden from yourself because it's, you believe something that is so devastating to you. You can't handle it. So you push it into your subconscious because you don't even feel like you could go on if it were true. And I can also say at this point that as I was thinking about this earlier today, I said to myself, I've been working on this, for a lot longer than I even thought of this connection with this myth. I've been working on this process of going through my traumas and my pain body and trying to release it. I said, how many Gorgons have I slayed? How many of these beliefs have come up? I said, hundreds of thousands. It's been a lot, multiple ones every day. It never stops. You just get better at it, and you get more faith that it's going to work. And I realized that with all these beliefs that I have brought up to light and been able to look at, not a single one of them turned out to be true.
Yeah.
And so when you realize that, hey, this belief that I had that came from who knows, when you were very small, maybe you were even an infant, maybe it was something you heard while you were sleeping or half awake and you misunderstood it, or it could come from anywhere, from your culture. Just it could come from any time or place, and it was at a time when you didn't have the perspective that you do now, or the knowledge that you do now, and so it was just horrifying, and you just pushed it away. But it's still there, even though you've pushed it away. It's still attracting things, and you're still operating under that belief. When you can finally see it, then you can finally look at it and question it and say, is this really true? And yeah, I've never had any of these things, any of these really scary, terrifying, monstrous beliefs ever turn out to be true.
Wow. That's a really huge point. They're just illusions there that are
Yeah,
formed from trauma.
yeah.
Um, what do you do about the situation? This is something that happens to me quite a bit, where you think that you have addressed something, but then it comes back, and then you think you've addressed something, and then it comes back. And it's like a slightly new form. Like for me, the example is I was afraid to be seen and to do this YouTube channel. And then, okay, I've got it. And then now I'm like kind of wanting to do things that are maybe funny or silly. And I'm like, I'm afraid to do things that are funny. So it's just a different form of, and I've seen this through my whole life. Like I'll address something and then it will come back in a different, slightly different way. How how do you handle that kind of like shifting Medusa?
Oh, yes, that happens to me all the time. There are some things that I feel like I've successfully moved on from really quickly. There's other things I've been working on for 20 years. They still come back. And it's super frustrating, of course, because I'm like, I thought I already, I slayed you. Like, why are you back again? And I came to the conclusion that it's not that what has been removed has come back. What has been, released and dissipated, um, it's gone. It's just that the the whole thing is so big that if you had to face it head on every day until it was gone, I mean, it would be it'd be too much. So you get little pieces, and it's like a spiral, Um, it's like you start down here, and oh, here we go. I got rid of this part. Yay, I'm up here. And then you start going back down again. You're like, no, why am I going back down? But you don't go as far. And then you deal with the next piece. And then you come back up again and you go even farther this time. And then you start coming back down. You're like, no, why am I going back? But you're actually going up. You're
Oh,
like this.
wow. That's amazing. That's so
So think of that.
helpful. That is so helpful. Like you are making progress. It's just,
Yes.
it's so big. I love that.
You
Wow.
go like this. Yeah.
That's making me try.
It's it is so important to talk about this stuff because yeah, it's so frustrating. And the most important thing to make it work and make it go better is if you believe that it's going to work, that you can face it, it's going to be okay, and you're going to get there. And yeah, I need reassurance daily. I
Same.
get that, from talking with other people that are doing the work or reading, reading books, like A New Earth or Oracle cards or various, like-minded blogs. Or it's just, you need that reassurance that you can do it, and it is working.
Right.
It is.
Wow. Yeah. Um, did you want to talk about your other example you had planned?
Sure. This one I think might be useful. Well, I think a lot of people have been in this situation. So I had a job once with someone who I would call a sociopath. Well, I've met many sociopaths in workplaces, but this one's particularly memorable because it was rather entertaining for me. And by sociopath, I mean that she displayed a chronic pattern of behavior that disregards the rights and well-being of others. That's Wikipedia's definition of
Thank you.
sociopath. And I think maybe some people might call that narcissistic behavior, or they might have different names for it. And so, but this person basically only saw other people as things to be used. And she wasn't violent. And that was one thing I actually ended up looking this up when I was working with her and finding out, like, oh, she meets this definition. But I had originally not been inclined to use it because, you think of sociopaths as always being violent murderers or something like that. But most of them aren't. But what they are is manipulative. And this one was manipulative and very, very skilled at reading people to figure out where they had traumas that made them vulnerable. And traumas make you vulnerable because to handle something that triggers your trauma, you'd have to face something that you can't yet bear to look at. And she knew this. And she would then, when she figured out what it was that was a trigger for you, she would say and do things that would cause you to freeze up and be unable to fight back, which was really nasty. um, because her ability was quite amazing. I mean, wow. And it is such a shame that she didn't use it to make everyone's lives better, including her own. But I guess she believed that destroying everyone else was the only way that she could succeed. She had to tear everybody else down. So she tried this with lots of people around me, and she tried it with me. But because of my experience healing traumas, I realized what she was doing immediately. And she kept tossing out insults and backhanded compliments until she hit a nerve. It was like she was fishing for what's going to work with you. It took her a while with me because I'd been slaying gorgons for many years, and the usual stuff didn't work. I was unfazed by her questioning, my intelligence, or insinuating that I was a bad person for questioning authority, whatever. Didn't work. But she kept trying new things, and finally she hit on a part of me that I couldn't look at. She found something. And she was clearly relieved and thought she had succeeded in incapacitating me, so I wouldn't be stopping her from doing whatever it was that she was trying to do. But I realized what had happened, and I immediately set to work using presence to fix the issue, starting by admitting to myself how her comment made me feel. So, I withdrew from the situation as best I could, and I went home and, I worked on it. I cried or I stomped or whatever I needed to do in my own space. And so when you allow yourself to feel the emotion, it starts to shift immediately. Like what I was saying before, it starts to shift, and then it clears the smoke, and so you can see the fire, the belief. Now you can finally look at it because the monster is slain. So I would work on these, and after it took me about 2 to 3 days usually. Meanwhile, I'm going into work trying to avoid her. After about 2 to 3 days of doing this, I'd clear it out, and I'd come to work. She'd try again, and bink, it would just bounce off. And I'm laughing because you should have seen her face. She'd panic because I don't think that she'd ever had that happen to her before. Like when this was a foolproof method for her. And here all of a sudden she'd found what worked, and now it didn't work anymore. She'd panic for a bit. Then she regrouped. She started throwing barbs again in hopes of finding something else that would hurt me. And after a few weeks, she'd find something. And I'd go through the process again, clear it out. Then it wouldn't work. She'd try again. It never occurred to her to just not try to destroy me. She was a great mirror. And I turned her attempts to hurt me to excellent use. I slayed so many gorgons because she kept pointing them out. But eventually I started to ask why I was putting up with it. I mean, after all, there's mirrors everywhere. Why do I need to deal with this one? So at that point I left and I got a different job.
Wow. Why you were putting up with it? Maybe like one of the most important uh mirrors or something. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, here I was using it and using it to, she's basically lobbing bricks at me, trying to hurt me. And well, you can do whatever you want with those bricks. You want to make a mansion out of it, they can't stop you. So I was using it. I was using it for good advantage, good purpose for me.
Yeah.
But then, like, well, why do I have to make it so hard?
Right. Yeah.
So that, yeah. And then, yeah.
And then you found something better. There was a part in there that really caught my attention where you said, I went home and I sat with the emotions. I stomped or I cried or whatever I needed to do. And that made me wonder, what are some ways or techniques that you have used to, yeah, just like be with the emotions? Um, I don't know, like exercise, screaming, putting on loud music. What are some of the things that you have done?
Let me think. I mean, besides crying and stomping, um,
Both wonderful things.
um, yelling, a lot of yelling.
Yelling, like you'll just be in your space and you'll be like, I don't accept this. I'm getting a new job or something like that. Or how do you yell?
I think what I try to do is I try to be as honest with myself as I possibly can because, we're always trying to kind of censor ourselves and like, I want to be this sort of person. I want to feel this way. I want, and sometimes, and a lot of times there's parts of ourselves that just don't cooperate or they're not there yet. And I'm trying to find a way for them to express themselves, but in a way that's safe and it's not hurting me or somebody else, which is why I go off and do it by myself. Um, and I mean, it could be just about anything, really, but as long as it is like sometimes, like especially with anger is really physical in its expression, and it's also a tough one because a lot of us are trained to be scared of anger because sometimes when people are angry, people get hurt. And so it can be hard to allow yourself to express it because it can bring up fear too. Um, and like finding things like, you know, do you have something soft that you can punch, like a pillow? Or I know I read something somewhere, a technique that's used sometimes, I guess, like in some Qigong traditions, is to actually have a bag of rice that you punch. And then like when you're done, you don't eat it. You throw it out. You get it out of the house because you don't want to consume that back into yourself. Another one actually that I really like that I learned along the way was something I think it's called expressive writing. That can't be the right name for it because I'm thinking it might be. The technique you can find it online. Maybe we can put a link to it.
Yeah.
I
Some
can find where
creative writing of some sort, or it's different?
it's yeah, it's different. It's just meant to like get the feelings out and get past your inner critic or inner censor.
Oh, I
Um,
know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
So the way I learned to do it was you like set a timer, maybe 5 minutes, and then you write or you type. And I usually use like I open an email, but I don't put a recipient in it so that I can't possibly send it accidentally. So I just start writing about how I'm feeling about this particular issue that's bothering me or whatever. And what it is you don't look at it. You just type. You just type or you just write. And then the timer goes off. And then the most important part was don't read it. Destroy it. Like delete the email, like shred the paper or
Oh, you don't read
destroy
it?
it. Don't read it. Which then I have found that to work sometimes when nothing else was working.
Oh, is it called automatic writing?
Oh gosh, I know one that's a big help for me that I should mention. Somatic experiencing.
What is that?
It is a group of techniques that are used in trauma therapy. So there's a number of books out there about it, and there's different like meditations that you can listen to and scripts that you can go by. But the one that I mean, there's a lot of different techniques involved in it, but the one that I use is actually it is a guided meditation, and it leads you through like it actually starts at your feet and works up, and you're just paying attention to the feeling of your body, and if you have emotions as you're feeling like your ankles or wherever you are, you just acknowledge them. You might be drawn to particular colors or a scent or a memory or something might come to mind, but you just like sort of focus on each area of your body as you go up or down. Mine goes up. Um, and it seems like, just so simple. All you're doing is paying attention to that part of your body. But because your body is just such an excellent mirror of whatever it is that you believe, it tells you all kinds of things, and it does it in a non-threatening way, generally. So that's really helpful. It's just like helping me open myself up to the things that I'm afraid to feel, or things I'm afraid to acknowledge that I feel.
Like for example, it would be maybe like a tightness in your stomach, or you're not breathing deeply, you're holding tension in your shoulders, things like that.
Yep, exactly. And it's amazing. Like you just get yourself relaxed a bit. You breathe in, pay attention to your breath, and then you start the scan like of your body and the things that you notice. You had no idea that you're clenching your jaw the whole time. You didn't even realize until you stop and pay attention. Or your shoulders are like this. Your neck is so tight. I tend to do that. So um, I tend to do both of those things.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, well, your attention is on other things. Your body is actually telling you stuff if you pay attention. It's reflecting what is going on in the depths of your subconscious.
Even as you're saying that, I'm remembering, oh, I need to breathe deeper. Not breathing, I'm shallow breathing right now. Wow, amazing. What is it? Can you say what it's called again?
Somatic experiencing.
Okay, somatic experience. I'm gonna look that up later for sure. That sounds great.
That's one. I think that's been my favorite. Like I've tried other other modalities, like Reiki, um, Qigong, and it's not that they aren't useful. They are, but what I found for me is I had the problem of too much stuff, too much subconscious material being released at once. And it would get like partly released and then it would get stuck and I couldn't get the rest of the way there. And then it's just, that's really, it's very hard to like live your life and actually support yourself and stuff while you're dealing with some of these things.
Mm.
So it's like it has to be the right pace. Like if too much stuff gets released at once and now you're trying to process all this stuff. Ah. So what I've had to had to concentrate on is what helps me get to the point where my body and my feelings are expressing it, and I'm able to release it and actually process it and get to the belief quickly before the next one comes up. Because
And
that's what happens. And one of the scary things about it is you start these traumas, they come up and you're dealing with them and you're like, yeah, I did it. And then another one. Like, okay, I cleared that one out. Now there's another one. You're like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Why aren't they going away? Even though they might seem like you talked about the recurring ones that seem to recur, and then there's where they're all different, but they just keep coming rapid fire, and you feel like something must be going very, very wrong, but it's actually not. It's just that they're all like, wait, we can get out now. We don't have to stay in here anymore. Let's get out.
we're free.
We're all very enthusiastic about leaving.
Oh, I love that.
It's
They're
just
also
that,
trying
yeah,
to get out. That makes it much more happy than a slaying.
I know. And that's one thing that made me feel like it's not that's every metaphor is going to be lacking in some way. And so I don't like necessarily to focus on it being violent because I don't think that it's like the reason I had mentioned before that, Medusa really is wreaking havoc because she wants help.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
And it's portrayed violently in the myth, and but the way that she then is she gives birth to Pegasus. You feel like it's like her energy is like it's destroyed in one form and is immediately rebirthed
Mm.
as this wonderful, completely free, powerful, winged horse. And I love that metaphor for it because that is what happens with it. It's like these things about yourself that you hate, the things that you hate the most. Like once you can transform them, once you can actually look at them and see the belief that's behind them, they transform. They don't just like, there's not just that they're gone. It's that something wonderful that you had lost comes back.
Mm. So the Pegasus is like the side of Medusa that's healthy, and it takes a new name because it's reborn in a sense, and like that.
That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The children in my Imaginary Friends movie said a similar thing about their imaginary friends. When their imaginary friends left, one of them said this, Maxine, she said that she felt like the energy of them had just been transformed into her art that she makes now. So they weren't really gone, they were just manifested in a new way. So I'm seeing a parallel that's really interesting. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's how it starts out. It starts out in this, you see this part of yourself, you have this adversarial relationship because you have this negative view of this part. Like, oh, it's causing this thing to happen in my life that I hate. Because of this part being afraid I can't move where I want because it's too scared and it won't listen to reason. Oh, it's ruining everything. And and then by allowing it to exist and saying, okay, I don't like you. I'm going to let you be there. I'm going to let you speak to me. And instead of like trying to hide that part from myself because I don't like it, and I feel like there's nothing I can do about it, so I have to annihilate it and make sure it's not there anymore, which doesn't work. I get up the courage to see it, even though it's terrifying. It might be terrifying. A lot of times it is. I mean, if it wasn't terrifying, we wouldn't have cut it off from ourselves and pretended it wasn't there. We would have just dealt with it, right?
Right.
Felt like we couldn't. It's amazing how the process shifts your relationship to these parts of yourself. And instead of being this, horrible internal demon that you have to fight, it becomes your friend. You transform it into an ally.
Wait, tell me more about that.
Oh, I wish I could think of like a good example. I mean, I've done it so many times. The thing is like once it gets cleared for me, a lot of times it sort of like leaves my memory. I think because I'm like in a different place. Um, and I have to really stop and think about each one, like, hey, what was going on with this? But yeah, these things, like, for example, this part of myself that was so afraid to go to California. I thought, oh, it's ruining my life. It's in my way. I could be happy if it weren't for this part of myself. And it's been a really long journey dealing with this part and then bringing it to into my awareness. And along the way, I've realized that this part was not, it wasn't trying to ruin my life. It was trying to keep me safe the best way that it could. And just over time, realizing that some of the things that it was afraid of were right. It had some really good points I was ignoring. I was ignoring, like, I got to California and I'm in like this single room occupancy hotel and it was terrible. And I was, to me, it was terrible because I was not used to those conditions, but it was not a safe place. And I was just ignoring it. And this other part of myself that's trying to keep me safe was, this is not safe. It was sounding the alarm. And I'm like, no, I'm not listening to you. Well, it it was giving me really valuable information that I was just pushing aside because I didn't want to feel afraid. And if you actually listen and make good use of the information these different parts of yourself are giving you, it's all valuable. I mean, eventually, once I had come to terms with this part more, I faced up with the fact that I really didn't like my living situation and I changed it. But yeah, just like it doesn't help to shoot the messenger.
Nice. Yeah.
People write entire books just trying to explain this.
Yeah.
Probably multiple books.
Well, you said something to me that really struck me though about how your guides had said it's like the energy of what you're transmitting, it's more powerful than you know. And I was
I hope so. I hope, yeah. I mean, what I hope is that people who've been in these underdog, and they've been the underdog in these situations, and they might be trying to deal with stuff that's just it's incredibly painful. It's triggering their trauma, and they don't. Sometimes you just can't get out of it. I had the option to leave that job. Sometimes that's not an option.
yeah.
And what do you do? What do you do when you're faced with that and there's nowhere else to turn? And I've definitely been in situations like that where I didn't have an out. And what I did was I to get somewhere where I could be by myself as much as I could and just say over and over and over again, how do I feel now? How do I feel now?
Mm,
How do I feel now?
mm. Wow.
Just over and over. And sometimes you can feel multiple different ways. You can feel both happy and sad and angry about the same thing. And all of those feelings are valid. And there's, you don't have, one doesn't have to win out.
That that's a really cool concept. I like that. I'm imagining the characters from Pixar's movie Inside Out, and you have like happy and sad and all the characters hanging out together.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
nice.
they can all be in the same room.
Right.
Like we are so big that we can contain all of these things at once.
Yeah. Well, I think that was really helpful to me. So I think the people watching will also feel very helped by what you said. And
I felt compelled to try out talking about this subject because I just see so much despair around me right now. You know, everything that we've been told is supposed to be how things work is just crumbling. And people, I, I don't know how someone who doesn't know about this dynamic is dealing with the situation that the world is in right now.
no idea.
It, it would be just terrifying. And so I want this information to get out there that it might look like there's nothing that you can do, but there is. You can feel how you feel about it. And it seems like, well, what's that going to do? Everything. Everything. You got to trust me. It does. It works. And if just I don't know what percentage of the population would have to start doing that to see a change. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
that's a good
if
question.
if a bunch of people could start, you know, just saying I'm going to be honest with myself, not saying they have to do anything necessarily or you tell anybody else. It's just for you to know yourself about how you feel, the energy that is unlocked by that is unimaginable.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm getting this vision in my head of like one person like you and the impact. For some reason, I'm seeing dominoes, but it would be more elegant than that. It would be just like everything could change and really fast if we would focus ourselves in this way. And
Mm-hmm.
the outcome that we're fearing wouldn't be the outcome. Is that what you're saying, kind of?
Yeah. Um, and I would like to emphasize it's not that I'm saying, oh, don't take any actions. It's that it's important to prepare the ground first before you plant a seed.
Mm,
So you prepare your ground internally so that your action it'll have all that all those resources behind it instead of it being cut off and it's just you by yourself. You can connect yourself in with everything that's out there that is available to help you.
mm. Yeah, like Perseus on the way to Medusa, he was given, I forget what it was, he was given tools by,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, he didn't go alone. Well, Okay, so it looks like he's alone, but he's actually got all these gods and goddesses in his corner. And yeah, we're actually we feel like we're alone. It might look like we're alone, but we're really not separate. But it can feel like that if we're trying to control things and just do it ourselves, and we don't realize that we're necessarily making it so hard.
That's beautiful. I think that's perfect.
I hope that someone sees this and it helps them.
Yes, me too, me too. This is our intention in being here and that we share. And okay, well, thank you so much, Eurydice. I
Thank you, Marlo.
So, for those of you watching, if you feel moved by this, please go ahead and hit the like button or subscribe, share it with your friends so we can spread the news about this channel and grow and bring you more wonderful content like Eurydice so generously agreed to be with us today and bring you more like that. Thank you very much.